Is this a boy or a girl?
How can you tell?
I think it's a girl because she's wearing pink. I think it is a girl because she's wearing pink and all these lovely...
I'd rather have a brother,
Why?
so I can teach him how to play soccer.
Oh,
If he was my little brother, I'd let him use all my toys.
Yeah, even if there were dolls, I'd let him play.
It's very important and I think very useful for us in schools to understand the difference between sex and gender. Gender is something that's constructed by the way in which we've lived in our culture. It's a really valuable one for us to understand. I always like to use the example that I don't think I was born desiring and wanting Barbie dolls, or that little boys were born desiring and wanting to play with guns. But it's one of the things that we do learn in the culture, and the culture is saturated with stories and messages that show us that that's a very important thing to do.
You get to wear nice clothes. Girls kiss boys and they play with Barbie dolls. Girls don't have lots of fights and boys do. Boys can do better things than girls because they're strong.
One of the effects about this understanding of the difference between sex and gender, though, is to understand how important it comes to be for girls and boys to get their gender right.
What are little boys made of? Frogs and snails and puppy dogs' tails.
She's tiny and perfect. She's soft and she's warm. And she'll set off your
Dirty
hearts in a
hands and
whirl.
grubby knees. Holes in their pockets and holes
Your
in their
own
sleeves.
little baby girl.
Let's sing Happy Birthday to Rachel and Chris. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Rachel. Happy birthday to you.
For my birthday, I got a yellow truck.
And I got a doll with red hair. It's got on the tummy. I love you.
And I got some builderific.
This is my favourite one. Barbie who talks.
And a Red Ranger who can nod his head and punch.
Masculinity comes to be associated with qualities like courage and strength and independence, autonomy. Now, for femininity, it becomes really what masculinity isn't. So to be a successful girl, you really have, the only way you can do this is to understand that you can't be a man, you have to be something else. So femininity comes to be associated with the weaker or oppositional forms of what are fairly obviously strengths, powerful strengths.
Not many boys get Barbies, and girls mostly get jewelry, dresses and different stuff.
Boys play with racing car sets and train sets and all that. And girls play with the Barbie and the dolls and the tea set.
Girls play soft things and boys play very hard things.
We shouldn't be at all surprised, I think, that the result of this saturation through toys, through cards, through many forms of activities in the culture, then make it very powerfully constructed through little girls and through little boys to really desire and want very strongly the things that the culture has offered them.
Cool. I'm really good. So funny.
Baby, no.
Join that string.
You're learning so many different things with play. You're actually, of course, learning knowledges, you're learning skills, you're actually engaging in an experience. And as you can see, you know, if you spend a lot of your time as a little girl with sewing machines, with dolls, with playing inside kitchens, this certainly does prepare you or lead you into some sorts of expectations about the work and the lifestyle that you're going to have beyond school. But of course the toys that boys spend much of their time engaged with and experiencing are very different from the toys that girls use. And here I think we've got to take account of the immense amount of time that boys spend with electronic media games. But what are boys learning through participation in these games? You know, they're learning about violence, they're learning about playing as an independent actor on the stage. They're certainly not learning much about being a parent or taking up any role in a family or how to work together in a team. It's a very lone and often very aggressive set of behaviours that boys' toys support and encourage.
And I've got a saber-toothed tiger that comes with it. A triceratops that comes with it. Cool. Out of boys and girls, boys get into trouble more than girls because, like, with girls, like, they're really nice and stuff. And I don't know where they get it from or anything like that, but they're just nice and stuff.
Through their participation in many of the toys that boys and girls have such different experiences with, I think we can understand that their preparation for school and actually their involvement in school can sometimes be seen to be very different. Boys' toys and boys' life experiences have often prepared them to be fairly aggressive, to certainly take up a lot of space, and to also not be terribly happy about sitting quietly. They want to be involved in action, and this is what their toys and their culture have shown them. One of the things that much of girls' play does is prepare them to be cooperative, to work indoors, and to be doing things like colouring in and reading, which are the sorts of fairly passive activities that often in early childhood are the things schools need to rely upon quite substantially. But you see, neither of these forms of activities are using the richness and potential of children. So you'd want to argue, I think, that the experiences that the culture has offered to children does not adequately prepare them to be able to engage and fully participate in a broader range of activities at school.
If a girl goes on the oval, boys are mostly playing soccer and football, and there's not enough room, and like there's about 5 games going at a time mostly. You never see girls playing soccer or football or anything. And then the boys don't let you play if you do ask.
Boys get influenced by their classmates, especially when at this age, and they show off.
Most of the teachers like the girls, and the boys, most of them don't study well.
Sometimes girls get more privileges because they're better students in class.
The boys think that because there's no teachers watching, they can do what they want.
With my child, when my child came to school, I noticed a definite difference in their behaviour. Once school started, I tried to discuss issues of talking about things when you have problems, solving them by discussing things. But for him to survive, I've noticed that he's not violent, but there is a bit of aggression.
Boys seem to be more aggressive in dealing with confrontation situations where they'll revert to solving a problem with actually pushing, shoving, hitting. And we're looking at giving those children a different set of skills where they can actually deal with them in a non-violent way.
Schools, I think, have got a very important role in intervening and taking some action in work on gender. And I think it's really important for schools to recognise that by not acting, by not doing anything, by just assuming that this is the way it is, that is actually acting, that is taking a position, that's condoning certain forms of behaviours, certain practices that can't be the richest forms of behaviours and practices for children.
normally boys won't bash up girls. I don't know why, but they normally bash up other boys, or if they bash up at all.
They get wedgied and decked, and they get horse flies and get pushed in pressure points, which hurts.
Oi! Get away from my bike! It wasn't even near your bike.
It's mostly boys in fights because girls aren't that strong.
Mostly you hear about boys harassing more than girls.
Girls don't really fight much, they just dob on people.
The girls, they just write letters or pass it on to their friends, and sometimes they might get the story wrong and they make different things up.
Yeah, like rumours. That's how rumours start. I've been harassed for racism because of my colour and that. They call me blackie and everything.
Some people pick on me because I'm small and I can't play many sports.
New people will come and arrive at our school and we start bullying them.
Sometimes the quiet boys are called girls.
I think though many boys don't understand that violence is anything other than punching somebody. They don't understand that you can hurt people very badly by name calling. And I think the culture that so many girls have grown up in makes them so sensitive to the name calling, to being identified or called a slut or a tart or a dog or any of the terms that we know float so freely in schools. But it's important that boys can understand that violence takes many forms.
Here comes the girl.
Boys normally get along better with girls when they're by themselves, sort of thing, but when they're in groups they sort of single out on a girl and sort of just walk up to her and harass her and all that when they're in groups. Boys steal the girls' pads out of their bag and run around the school playing football with them. Yeah. The girls will chase after them. No, leave my pads alone, leave my tampons alone, they're mine, and they'll be throwing them.
Get out of the way. Why should we? We want to go upstairs.
Find a way.
We've done a fair amount of research on this at our school through surveys with the children and teacher surveys, and we found that in any problems with violence and harassment, it seems to be groups of boys that are the perpetrators. It seems that because it happens so often, we tend to ignore it, and it goes on and on. And one thing that we found was that even those little things seem to add up, and over a period of time, what seemed to be insignificant methods of upsetting girls or getting their own way in the classroom added up to a major problem for the girls.
Children that are the victims of being harassed become reluctant to come to school, and we have parents who say, my child doesn't want to come to school, I don't know why. They become withdrawn and don't want to participate in the less supervised activities like the lunchtime play, the freer activities where they feel they're in danger of someone else getting at them.
If the behaviour is not stopped when someone's young, it's only going to continue later on in their life, because if it's not challenged by anyone, friends or family or teachers, they'll continue to use it as a strategy to control other people.
Children's court appearances for a 12-month period, boys 13,000, girls 1,300.
In the same period, of all convicted sexual offenders, 99% were male, 1% were female.
I believe schools can make a difference. In our society, there are so many forces tearing at the child's attitudes and beliefs, and we need to have a stable environment where we can show that these things do work, that we can work together to resolve conflicts, that we can work together as a team, that we can enjoy it, that we don't have to use power struggles to achieve our aims. And we can do that at a school because we're in a fairly controlled environment.
I think it's really important for schools to start tuning into their own practices, to really start noticing what's going on in classrooms, in playgrounds. And to do this, I think we've really got to start to observe and monitor and really collect data, collect information about what's happening out there.
As teachers, we don't always know the problems that happen in the school as far as harassment. And we did a survey which surprised us that the children did see that there was a problem with violence. And at this age, the pushing in line and calling of names is a really severe thing. That's just the beginning. So after the survey, we identified that it was more the violence at that stage that we wanted to deal with. What was some of the things you remember doing yesterday? Joel?
We talked about the forms of harassment.
And what were those different forms of harassment? Nicholas?
Physical?
Yes.
Verbally.
Verbal harassment, that's right. So today we're going to do something different and work in groups to discuss different things. And the groups that you'll be working in are single-sex groups, because what we want to do is look at the difference between what the girls think and what the boys think. All right.
One of the big things for the boys, especially with the older boys, was when Sharon displayed to them all the figures and facts about what happens to a lot of boys with regard to violent acts, jail sentences and things like that, and it started to show them some real life statistics about what can happen and what happens to males as a result of them having this so-called power.
Somebody putting me down.
Well, what you said when you think you're good at something.
Yeah.
The way we went about teaching the issues that the children brought up were initially in single-sex groups. It enabled the girls and the boys to both speak freely without feeling that they were going to be ridiculed when they answered a question or brought up a concern.
Afraid, like when people come up and gang on you or something, when a whole group or something gangs on you. That's afraid.
Yeah.
Or when
Something that we had to do was to give the children language that they could use, because the main problem was that they didn't know how to tell people that they were being harassed or bullied, as they would say.
Okay, embarrassed.
The whole staff has encouraged the children to use that language and to feel comfortable about using that language. I think the problem that tends to happen is that the recipient is the one that changes their behaviour, and that was something that we really went for, so that those children did not have to change their behaviour. It was the harasser that had to change their behaviour.
We have a bilingual teacher at the school. Nia works within English and Vietnamese. I think he was really significant in the movement of the Vietnamese parents into the community on the basis of trust and of their voice being recognised when we actually sort of collect data.
We have different meetings and with interpreters, with, not only interpreting, but we have to explain why and what and how, so that, they fully understand the new concepts of the new society. The parents, they are not upset about, this discussion about sexual harassment. They're happy now. We can see the feedback now.
Everything that we've done has really been with both gender and cultural awareness. Now, these things include changes to the school uniform. Children are wearing the shorts as an option that has actually taken on in the last couple of years. The oval continues to be something that they have Girls Only Day. We now have Girls Only Day on the tennis courts as well. And it has implications for the way space is used generally. We find that even under the school buildings, etc., the girls actually sort of claim their own particular areas.
Since I got involved in this sexual harassment issue before, and I think they have done something good about it.
I think parents play an important role in that they should be seen in the schools. I think it's important for the kids to see their parents taking an interest in their education, and also I think that they support the teacher in that kids tend to behave a little bit better when their parents are around.
Parents can have a huge impact on the issues of gender and violence in schools because they can support whatever is going on in the school, so that the behaviour that is acceptable or unacceptable at school is the same as the behaviour that's acceptable or unacceptable at home. Therefore, we're working together, basically.
Because we focused on the issues of harassment and violence. It's really supported our supportive school environment efforts and our behaviour management structures, which have dovetailed in together. As well as that, it's worked in well with our human relationships education program. It's made the kids more aware of other people and their needs. It's made the kids more caring towards their peers. The children are aware of a range of strategies to use. They're aware of a whole range of sequences that we can go through to solve problems. They're aware of the sexual harassment referral officers, and they use them to their advantage, and so they feel they have control. And because of that, the level of conflict and playground violence has dropped dramatically. It's meant a drop in teacher stress, principal stress. Everyone's a lot happier, the relationships are much more fruitful, and so because of that we're able to achieve so much more in the classroom because it's a positive and productive environment that we work in.
As a parent, I think the best school that I would like to send my child to would be one where respect and tolerance for each other's opinions and cultures may be taught in that school.
My ideal school is somewhere where everyone gets along and there's mixed groups, like boys and girls play together.
They play with each other without having to classify children into boys and girls or rich or poor.
Best school it would feel strange because there's no fighting or anything, but it would be really good because then you'll get along with everyone.